I was a transformation executive my entire career. It's people, process, then tech. One of my clients was thinking about trying this technology. Her business was growing. She was a CEO and she's like, I got to hire fast. Maybe this will help. So he did an experiment. And so she needed one of her direct reports. She needed a new leader. So it's an open position. So we had somebody do 10 versions of her resume and submitted all 10 against that role. And only 3 made it in. Now, this is the CEO's resume, right? Only 3 were qualified.
Yeah. Wow.
Then when they did the video interview, she had somebody else do it that wasn't her. Gave her all the answers to the questions that they wanted looking for. And, so 3 people did that, only 1 made it through.
We've curated a vast network of business experts ready to address your company's most pressing challenges. From corporate growth strategy to leadership, marketing strategy, sales strategy, branding, customer relations, technology, AI, IT security, and beyond, we connect you to the best experts for your needs. Reach out to us for more information or schedule a call at growandlearn.org to explore how we can support you. Welcome to Grow and Learn, everyone. Today we have a treat for you. Super professional, super successful, and fighting for freedom, Tammy Alvarez. We're going to be speaking about career freedom, how to escape the career trap. This is her newest book, Escaping the Career Trap. Tammy is a leadership executive coach. She's been in the CEO echelons of various large companies in the US for many years, and now she's a leadership coach, helping people to become more in line with their true desires, aligned with their happiness, and essentially escaping the career trap. So I'm speaking to Tammy Alvarez. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love the bid for freedom. That's what we're all looking for, right?
Right. If you boil it down to the essentials, it's freedom of time and money, basically.
That's
time, freedom.
And mind, right? And,
Yes.
having that, so many of us, I think, are stuck in our own heads. And so getting a little freedom from that once in a while is always a good thing as well.
Yeah. Tammy, you escaped not only the career trap, but you escaped the US, corporate America. You're all the way down in Mexico.
That's right.
Do you want to tell us your story?
Yeah, absolutely. And I grew up in corporate America in financial services, and I loved it. And I had a very unusual upbringing in terms of I was very poor as we were growing up. My dad left, my mom, my sister, and I ended up homeless when I was 15. And so that had a profound impact on how I looked at things. I didn't have a college degree until I turned 40. Yet I had ambition, I had fear, because I didn't want to end up like my mom and in that situation. And so I approached my career very differently. And I ended up reaching some very senior levels within organizations and financial services. And I just loved every minute of it until I didn't. And I remember that moment where it just hit, where all the things that I fought for, all the things that I cared about, all the things that I, just really was fired up about no longer energized me. And I've always led my career in a way where if you don't like it, change it. And when I did that, I was looking around at my options and I'm like, okay, I'm not loving this anymore. And I can't be passionate about the work, my growth, or my people. So what's next? And moving into another C-level role within another financial services institution just felt like I was putting more lipstick on a different pig, right? And I'm like, this is not going to do it. So I went big. So I cashed out of Wall Street, moved to a tropical island off the coast of Belize about 6 years ago, and started this coaching business. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to be an entrepreneur. I just knew that I was burnt out. There were people just like me everywhere and didn't know what to do next. And so the business really found me ultimately with these mid to senior level leaders who were in the same role. They hated what they were doing, but they're making a lot of money. They have big houses, spouses that they're paying for, kids in college, and they can't just sell everything and live in a yurt. Yeah. And so they would come to me and be like, okay, I can't move to a tropical island, but what can I do? And that's how this whole thing started.
Mm-hmm. I've spoken already to a few coaches that have come from a similar background, not the same, but they've hit a ceiling where they couldn't take it anymore, and there was nothing satisfying in their careers. And ultimately, what they end up doing is coaching. But my wondering was always, what do they coach their clients to become coaches also, or what are these people striving for past this career?
Yeah. And so I started doing the career coaching with individuals who would self-fund, right? Because they couldn't go to their boss and say, I hate all the things. Could you pay for a coach for me so I could figure out what I need to do next?
Yeah.
And I think when you talk about that freedom that you opened up this session with, freedom is defined so differently for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, most of my clients do not have the chops to start their own business.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to take the financial risk. And, and so they're finding other ways to reinvent a new normal for them. And in my client's case, anyway, make more money, which is a big deal in terms of financial services pays well. So they don't have to take that step back, but they're stepping into environments that leverage what they've done and they pay them more. I talk about the transition of being paid for what you do to being paid for what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So our coaching doesn't create baby coaches everywhere, right? We are taking these executives and really using their superpowers to benefit other businesses. But what we found now is that more and more companies come to us because their employees are so disengaged.
Mm-hmm.
And I call it the zombie apocalypse, right? I was in Chicago earlier this year, facilitating a 3-day strategy session. And I got there early. So I grabbed a cup of coffee and I sat in the lobby. And it was a big building with tons of companies. And I just watched because I'm in Mexico City, right? So I'm in my office all the time. I don't see the corporate grind on a regular basis. And I swear it looked like the zombie apocalypse invaded Chicago. No one was smiling. Everyone was shuffling. Their heads were down. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is who companies are counting on to wow their customers, to build new business, to, innovate. And no one cares. And there's this apathetic haze that has gone over, our organizations. And you see it with the Gallup surveys and the engagement surveys. And you see, the engagement surveys, and they come out and the results are never any better, but no one knows how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they could have fixed it by now, they would, because there's so much upside in revenue, profitability, retention, customer experience. And so now what we're doing is we are helping organizations figure out how to tap into that, unstoppable force that is dormant within their companies, how to create a leadership style that allows that to flourish, and then how to work with HR to kind of undo the well-intended bad decisions that are made that make hiring, promoting, career paths, and all that thing way harder than it needs to be. And so when we look at the ecosystem of business and you put employee or career fulfillment first, then so many other things benefit from that. And no one is looking at it this way.
Mm-hmm. So on one hand, you have the business that helps individuals in higher positions start selling their knowledge rather than, their
tactics
on paper. And on the other hand, it's all the HR departments reorganization in companies.
And it's not even just the HR. Most of the time, we're brought in by an executive who has business results that aren't performing, and they need to change up how things are done, but they don't know how to do it.
Let's talk about both.
Yeah. So, but the issue is so multidimensional that you can't just fix one thing. Well, you can, but you're not going to get as much of a lift as if you look at things in a more holistic way.
Yeah.
Right. So if we help people take control, which they haven't had in a long time, and help leaders actually support that control and use it, for good and allow that to grow, and then simplify and humanize the HR process, which we've gotten away from, then all of a sudden it's like pixie dust has been sprinkled across the organization and revenue starts to grow and people love what they do. And, customers are happier and people stay. And, but it's taking that 3-pronged approach that really adds that value to the organizations. Now, what I've found though, which is interesting, I'd love to hear from your audience in terms of what they're experiencing. But what I've seen is the big companies don't care. Mm-hmm. They want to care, but they don't, right? Because they can have fungible resources. they can have people that are sitting there and just kind of twiddling their thumbs or just working at half speed. It's those companies from like 500 to 1,000 people that need everybody engaged and need everybody excited and motivated. And so it's really interesting to see how different companies are addressing or not that same issue of, there's this apathetic haze. And if you can tap into that, and if you can just get people excited about what they're doing again, which is way easier than you think, the business results and the personal results are just absolutely astounding.
Have you observed that this apathetic haze comes with the size of the company? So does it come only above 1,000, let's say?
No, I haven't.
So it's for any size
everywhere.
of company.
And earlier on, I would just blame it on the COVID hangover. Right? Like it's just people are getting back in the swing of things. But I think as more companies are, pulling people back to work, right? As more companies are laying off, as more companies are just not putting their employees' career fulfillment as a high priority and treating them as more of a commodity, any company of any size is at risk.
Yeah. But
it
seems that the narrative only, like the environment is changing, but the narrative is the same. Basically, nothing has changed since 10 years ago. And
if not longer, yes.
It's exactly. It's not even a COVID thing. It's just the next excuse that helps bad management perpetuate with the same practices.
Well, that's exactly right. And in the book, we give everyone the tools to take ownership of their career. And what I talk about is becoming that CEO of your career. Because when you treat your career like a business, you make very different decisions. And the fun part is everyone already knows how to run a business or a division. You know how to do strategy and vision and execute and, mitigate risks, but we don't apply that knowledge and those skills to us. And when we become the CEO of, if you become the CEO of You Inc., then everything starts to change. You start to take accountability for what's happening instead of blaming bad managers. So many people feel like they're being failed by the system. I didn't get promoted. My work isn't being recognized, that kind of stuff. When really the system is just there to pave the roads, raise the guardrails so you don't go off the cliff, and set the speed limit. But we still have to drive the car. And so if we can teach people how to drive the car, and then teach leaders how to encourage that. Because if you've got a group that's taking accountability and you have leaders that are intimidated by that, that's not going to work, right? That's going to create friction. So if you create a leadership opportunity where that stuff is encouraged, because when you take that ambition and you put it towards the company's biggest goals, you win big, right? So then you've got that leadership that's allowing that to continue to grow. Then you bring all the HR things in terms of the insanity that we have. I've never seen a system so broken, right? We've thrown so much tech at HR, hiring, promotions, job path, all that stuff. And the more tech we put on it, the less human we become and the less effective this is. And so we need to put the humanity back into this process because so far humans are managing humans, right? We're not managing robots yet. And so we need to continue to act like that. So when you take that three-pronged approach and allow this to grow in any size company, I think, the results are just absolutely amazing.
So do you find that implementing technology in these vital functions is another way for management to wash their hands off of responsibility? Yes.
Totally. Under the auspices of efficiency. Right? Under the auspices of streamlining, standardization, risk management. As we're recording this, I'm on a tear right now on social media about downsizing with dignity, right? And these layoffs that have been happening and just the insane stories that I've experienced and I'm still seeing in terms of, remote workers getting fired over email. People who have been with your company forever, but because you made a bad business decision and can't afford them anymore, are getting perp walked out the door as you're packing their box. Like these things are just absolutely not okay. And much like hiding behind tech in terms of it's efficient, it's productive, we hide behind legal and HR saying, well, we have to do it this way. And we don't. There is a better way.
Mhm.
And I think those organizations that know that finding a better way is their secret sauce to long-term success are the ones that are going to benefit from this.
Mhm. So when you escaping the career trap is about both individuals who are in need of progressing with their career, escaping the trap, and for companies. Is that
Yes,
correct? For
that's
both.
exactly right.
Mhm.
Because, well, leaders, I coach so many CEOs who are stuck in the career trap.
Mhm.
Right? Just like they hate Mondays too, right? And it's just so no one is spared, right? This drama that we find ourselves in. So whether you're the CEO or whether you're the intern, no one gets to say this never happens to me. They look like they've got it all put together, but they don't. I mean, they're human beings just like everyone else. And so I think it's an individual journey to find your path forward, become that CEO, and really do more of the things that light you up. But as an organization, when you enable that, when you have that dialogue, when this becomes normal, that people do feel fulfilled and they love what they do and they're playing to their strengths, then everyone benefits. And so it is that two-pronged in terms of individuals who run companies have to care about themselves, kind of put your own mask on first. But then you can transport that knowledge and that mindset and that culture into organizations so you can start to thrive again instead of laying off your best people.
Mm-hmm. And now with so much pressure with the layoffs that you mentioned, how is this? It's not a theory. It's how is this philosophy landing onto the companies that are in dire need, especially of this philosophy?
The leaders who get it are eating it as you taking as much as they can and making those changes. Organizations that look at employees as commodities and fungible won't get it, and they never will. And ultimately, what will happen is when hiring and when resources get short again, because it's cyclical, we know we go through, it's an employer market, an employee market, it goes back and forth all the time. So when that cycle spins back and there's a labor shortage or a talent shortage, the companies who have invested in doing it the right way now will win. Because people remember how crappy you treated their friend when times got hard.
Mm-hmm.
They'll read the Glassdoor reviews and see how many people got walked out the door after being there for 20 years as a great employee.
Mm-hmm.
They'll also read, oh my goodness, I've got growth opportunities. I'm doing the things I love. I'm getting to experiment. And so ultimately, talent is the one thing that will make or break organizations. You can have the best tech, the best operating model, the coolest thing, but if you don't have people that are there driving all of these things with passion, ambition, and purpose to serve, then you will not win long term. And so it's those long-term leaders that realize this that are going to do what's needed, not just to fix the problem, but to maintain that level of growth and forward movement. Those are the ones who are ultimately going to win.
Mm. I mean, it's been a long-term discussion between short-term and long-term in corporate specifically. And I don't know to what extent this at all has changed. It seems like it's gotten even worse, to be honest. What else is an important thing that that a leader should consider on their path to escaping the trap?
There's three things that I see almost everybody from intern to CEO struggle with, right? And so as you're trying to find, break that freedom and get that freedom that you want, get out of that career trap, the very first thing I encourage people to really focus on is what are the things that light you up? Like we're all good at things, right? And we can do a lot of things well, but there's a very few that actually fire us up. And oftentimes we don't get to do those things very much in our job. We get a little bit of it, but not a lot. Like for me, the things that fire me up that I could do for 12 hours a day and never get tired, and that just I could do all the time are working with my clients, working with our coaches, and doing things like this in terms of podcasts and keynotes and running seminars and workshops. I love that stuff. I can do that all day and be like, let's go, let's have some more. Now for my business, I can do my finances and our strategy and the social and all these things. But after about an hour or so, I'm spinning in my chair throwing pencils at the ceiling because I'm just not loving it. So stop worrying about what you're going to get paid most for. Stop worrying about what you're most experienced in, and focus on those things that you could do for 12 hours a day and still end up as energized as you started. Because when you do that, then you are going to find that those are your strengths. And I don't know, I call it breaking the toxic cycle of self-improvement. Now, I'm all for personal growth, right? Learn, grow, and do. But more times than not, people spend time trying to fix something they're not good at instead of strengthening something that they're already good at. And here's the deal. You're not going to be good at it. You can throw time, money, and resources at this. Best case, you're going to be adequate. So what if you spent more time doing the things that you're strong at, and the things that you suck at, you bring other people in that love to do those things. And that way everybody's doing what they love and the team is moving together further and faster. And so, from a leadership perspective, to be able to create a dynamic like that is huge. So that, so being able to play to your strengths and do the things that light you up is huge. The other thing that holds people back and keeps people stuck in the career trap is fear. Fear of failure, fear of what they're going to look at, losing face, taking a step back, loss, those types of things. And if we had a more healthy relationship with fear, then we would do more. And how I like to talk about it is we've got this relationship with, success and failure, that it's binary, good, bad, black, white, right, wrong. But the reality is you cannot succeed without having failed. And so for everyone who's preventing failure, they're also preventing success. And you can get over that by adopting an experimental mindset, because not everything is good or bad. There's a little bit of everything in all the things that we do. It's the narrative and what we learn. So instead of saying this was successful or you totally failed on this one, like what parts were good, keep that. What parts didn't work, get rid of that and try again. And so for leaders who are struggling with, avoiding failure and are, having that relationship, that's holding you back. And it doesn't need to if you change your mindset with that. So I think, lighting up strengths and really getting comfortable with that experimental mindset are the three biggest things that people can do to start to reset their perspective and get out of that career trap.
I will give you an example now of my career in corporate some years ago, and I'm going to ask a question as if I'm still employed there, just to see how I would have reacted. I should have applied this differently, not to challenge you. It's just like
it's a laser coaching session, right? So
let's play it for fun. So I was in group strategy, and there were some aspects of my work that I really enjoyed. So, for example, I enjoyed creating new business models, communicating with other people, putting people together that could do the job, or connecting people. What I really didn't like was overanalyzing, making presentations, like those nitty-gritty things that were like working on the computer is basically what I didn't like. Yeah. So if I had said, okay, I'm really good at putting people together, coming up with concepts, thinking about the great vision, and I want to do that, but I'm being paid to analyze those budgets, to put the group business plans together, to make these presentations that take the majority of my time. How should I have approached this using your
Yep, absolutely. And I had the same issue with my career, right? So there were things that lit me up and things that were soul crushing for me, right? And or just things that from a skill perspective I sucked at. Math was never my thing. So I was in the same boat. How do I do this? And the one thing about corporate jobs is no one wins alone. You don't do these things in a vacuum. It's not like you're sitting in your office and creating all these great ideas all by yourself. Right. You get involved with stakeholders and your business partners and those types of things. And so with this community that you build, whether it's through influence or through hierarchy, because you can do it both ways, you start to pull people in who have strengths in areas that you don't. who care about the outcome of your work because it affects them. And so as you are working with your business partners and your stakeholders, and you know that this PowerPoint crap is not your jam, and you know that digging into the data to support your ideas is not your jam, but you bring people in who do this for their day job. And you ask them to help contribute their skills and talents and perspectives to the overall solution, because A, they're going to get credit. B, they're going to support your idea because their fingerprints and ideas are on it. And number three, they love doing this because this is where they flourish. And so I would put together these informal teams that had all the skills I lacked. So for example, I'd have these big strategies, but then we have all these, the financial metrics and, the data and all that stuff. Now, math is not my jam. I don't believe that letters and numbers should be together. I don't think it's natural, but I'm thankful for people who do. And so I would have quants on my team. I would have data analysts, on the team. That didn't work for me. They didn't owe me anything, but they cared about the outcome of what I was driving, and they wanted a seat at the table to help drive the solution. And in exchange for that, then they were willing to help me do the work. And so that's how I recommend, whether it's from hierarchy, fill your team with hired guns with different specialties. But if you're not having a lot of people that report to you, you're never going to do this alone anyway. So pick the right people, make them part of the solution, and give them the credit all along the way.
Fantastic. I love that. Had I had you back then.
Right, exactly, right? So a little Monday morning quarterback, right? It's always easy to look in the rearview mirror. Yes.
What do you say to companies who are on the verge of adopting AI now for CV screening and for internal evaluations and for things like that?
I have a love-hate relationship with these, right? In terms of, I get the manual labor that goes into like thousands of applications that come in, right? And it is impossible, to be able, to do that manually. But I also think we've gotten lazy. And in many cases, what I have found is that the technology that we adopt is only as good as the input that you put in. Mm-hmm. And so we need to, before we even think about using technology, I think we need to go upstream significantly, because I have seen so many clients, and I've done this myself, where this group interview thing is a big thing now, right? And so you go through a couple rounds and you got to come in and make a presentation, or, it's trial by fire, 5 people on one.
I have never heard that until now.
It's happening all the time. It's just ridiculous.
Okay.
And so, but what happens is those 5 people do not agree on what they're looking for, what a successful candidate is, and who the ideal, what the ideal outcome is, or what even the work that they need to do. So you've got 5 people not on the same page, torturing this one candidate, and they're trying to please all 5 in terms of, and it has nothing to do with the job that they're interviewing for. This happens regularly.
Wait a second. Do you mean that there are 5 candidates or 5 people interviewing?
No, 5 people interviewing one person.
Okay, I thought the other way around.
And these 5 people don't actually agree on what good looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I've had this 5 back-to-back interviews all day long. They exhausted me to death.
and it's, all the interviews are different. They, when you ask what does success look like, nobody can answer you. Mm-hmm. And, these job descriptions are insane, right? There's 700 things that they're never, ever, ever going to need. And they're so far away from the job that actually needs to get done. And so I think we need to fix some systemic internal problems before you can even think about using tech to accelerate. Because all tech is doing now is accelerating terrible decisions. Mm-hmm. They're accelerating the dysfunction. Yeah. And, I was a transformation executive my entire career. It's people, process, then tech, right? You've got to get the right people. You've got to narrow down what it is you're doing and make that consistent. Then you can use tech to make sure that continues to thrive and get more efficient. But right now we're going straight to tech, and that's accelerating the dysfunction. Yeah. And so, so I think there's absolutely a need for it. Like a good example is they have this tech out now that, another torture device I call, another higher HR torture device is having people do video interviews before they're a human being will take the time to meet with them. And this just freaks everybody out, right? No one loves this. But now there's new tech that can actually look at your body language, how your pupils dilate, all these biometrics. Then they go and look at all of your social media and all the cookie crumbs that you've left out there. And the tech will come tell you whether this person is worth hiring or not. Now, I think it's snake oil personally, but one of my clients was thinking about trying this technology. Her business was growing. She was a CEO and she's like, I got to hire fast. Maybe this will help. So he did an experiment. And so she needed one of her direct reports. She needed a new leader. So it's an open position. So we had somebody do 10 versions of her resume and submitted all 10 against that role. And only 3 made it in. Now, this is the CEO's resume, right? Only 3 were qualified.
Yeah. Wow.
Then when they did the video interview, she had somebody else do it that wasn't her. Gave her all the answers to the questions that they were looking for. And, so 3 people did that, only 1 made it through. And she's like, I'm losing out on like 10 candidates because this actually doesn't work. Wow. And so obviously she killed that idea, after testing it. But again, tech is the last thing we need to do. Let's fix the upstream problems first, and then use tech to accelerate the good things and not the dysfunction.
Wow. Tammy, this was such a revealing talk. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot to talk about. We didn't talk about 2 of the other tips that you wanted to give for individuals, but maybe we can come back and do it another time.
Do it another time. We can definitely do a part 2, right? Yes, and that's certainly fine. Or if they don't want to wait for the cliffhanger, people can certainly go to escapingthecareertrap.com and grab a copy of the book, or reach out to us at Career Winners Circle. We're always, here to fill in the blanks for everyone who needs it.
careerwinnercircle.com is the website.
That's right. That's the website for the coaching, and then the book and the speaking engagements and things like that are escapingthecareertrap.com. So those are the 2 places you can find us. And I always encourage listeners, connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know what you thought. Let me know you heard the episode. What did you agree with? What didn't you? And just be able to move forward that way. I'd love to keep the conversation going.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this talk and lovely human insights.
Yes. To meet you, and thanks again for the invite. I appreciate it.
Looking forward to talking to you again for part 2.
Fantastic.
Thank you for listening to Grow and Learn. We hope that you found our podcast informative, engaging, and inspiring. Our mission is to help you keep growing and learning, and we hope that our conversations and insights have provided you with practical advice and useful perspectives. If you're looking for personalized support and guidance to help you achieve your personal or professional growth objectives, I offer a range of services to help. As a trusted management partner and mentor, I work with businesses in the process of transformation, looking for new streams of business, as well as M&A. With an extensive professional network of experts and mentors, I can bring on board the right person or team based on the specific needs of the company I'm working with. To learn more about the services I offer and how I can help you achieve your goals, visit my website at growandlearn.org. You can also reach out to me via email or social media. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grow and Learn, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us, and it helps us to continue to create content that is relevant and valuable to our listeners. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights and perspectives with you in the future.